من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Those who do not leave making a false testimony and work doing deeds accordingly, his fast will not be accepted, and God does not need him to leave his eating and drinking.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome you tonight in this first London lecture in the series of lectures organized by the Center for the Study of the Philosophy of Islamic Law. It's a great pleasure to have you all here tonight. We have had a series of lectures in the sphere of Maqasid, the philosophy of Islamic law, but most of them outside UK. We have had so far around 15, if I'm not wrong. So tonight's lecture is the first one in this area, at least. As you know, a few of you know that we have had a few lectures in London within the sphere of manuscripts or within the scope of our Center for the Study of the Islamic Manuscripts. So thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight's lecture is entitled, as you have seen in the invitations, The Objectives of Fasting, Reflections on the Meaning. Before I give the floor to our keynote speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Sharaf Yamani to welcome you on behalf of the Board of Directors of Al-Furqan and its chairman, Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Yamani, and Mr. Sharaf Yamani is member of the Board of Directors of Al-Furqan. Sharaf, thanks for being with us tonight, and please take the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Dear friends of the Foundation and honorable guests, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of our chairman, Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Yamani, and the members of the Board of Directors to tonight's lecture that falls within, as Sally mentioned, the work we do within the Maqasid Center, a center dedicated to the study of the objectives of Islamic Sharia. And we welcome Professor Heba Raouf Ezzat. We are delighted you could join us tonight in your home, away from home. And we are excited to hear your take on the philosophy, the objectives, the meanings of fasting. The Maqasid Center, if you allow me, is the newest of the three initiatives under the umbrella of Al-Furqan Islamic Heritage Foundation, dedicated also to the preservation of our written heritage. But although both the Encyclopedia Center and the Manuscript Center are involved with uncovering historical data and content that will improve our understanding of our cultural heritage, the Maqasid Center covers our daily life as Muslims and all the challenges and issues that we can face. The center's mission is to revitalize the knowledge and the methodology of Maqasid in order to develop the process of ijtihad, independent reasoning, and the renewal of Islamic fiqh, its fundamental theories, usul, and Islamic thought in general. The goal isn't necessarily to promote a change, a drastic change in Sharia, nor is it to liberalize Sharia in a Western context, but rather it is to improve, or shall I say upgrade, our understanding of the divine text, the Holy Quran, and the traditions of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is done by focusing less on the words and sentences of the divine text and more on the goals or the objectives that are advocated and upheld. Here in the center, we believe that the philosophy of Maqasid will help us find solutions to the challenges we face today in the Muslim world and help develop the Islamic legal codes that will protect us or protect our main essential rights, or what the scholars call daruriyat, which are the protection of life, faith, wealth, intellect, and procreation. For the past 10 years, the Maqasid Center achieved its aims and objectives by pursuing several activities as publishing studies and articles, organizing training courses, holding conferences, symposia, seminars, lectures, to stimulate discussions and debates between scholars, establishing a reference library with the main research tools necessary for the study of Maqasid, and encouraging universities and programs outside the traditional Islamic institute to conduct research that show the universality of Islamic law and the application in all cultural contexts. Today in the center, as we celebrate our 10-year anniversary, the center has conducted 9 training courses, 5 symposias, 15 lectures, not including this one, and 20 titles published on various aspects of the maqasid of Islamic law. And finally, amongst the center's crowning jewels is the publication of the Dalil al-Irshadi li Maqasid al-Shariah, the bibliography of Maqasid al-Shariah, supervised by Dr. Muhammad Kamal Imam. It is a comprehensive reference work, a historical record, a survey on everything that has been written in the field of Maqasid, 1,000 years ago till today. The study covers all Islamic schools of thought. It includes sources such as manuscripts, theses, conferences, modern studies from several countries around the world and in various languages. This encyclopedic work consists of 10 volumes, providing references and abstract for more than 2,000 titles. Now, as I look onto the crowd and I see the faces awaiting anxiously Professor Ezzat's talk, and I have no doubt that she will nourish us the way a glass of cold Zamzam water nourishes us after 16 hours of fasting. And as we gather tonight, a week away from the holy month in this Ma'idat al-Iftar, may we all be blessed by Ramadan, and may God bestow on us the serenity and strength to meet all of Ramadan's challenges and objectives, and while we observe the spiritual and physical rewards of fasting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharaf, for your welcoming words and for this brief about the center and its activities, and for being with us tonight. Respected guests, as you heard and as we know, Ramadan is the holy month of Ramadan is approaching, and hence the talk and discussions about the fasting as one of the 5 pillars of Islam intensifies and becomes more interesting. Usually the discussions about the fasting concentrate on the rules of fasting or on the issues related to the question how to fast, what breaks the fast, what doesn't, and not much about its higher objectives. Discussing the Maqasid, which usually we translate that as higher objectives, philosophy of Islamic law, purposes, intents, goals, secrets, the wisdoms. Talking about this in our actions is an important thing. Because to do so is to discuss the actions in a true and in a deep way. The general objective of the Islamic law is to contribute to people's interests and prohibit harm and mischief. This general objective is consistent throughout the sections of the Islamic law, including rites and acts of worship. It is possible that if we do not know why we are doing certain things, we could miss the entire point behind the action itself. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said about this concept, maybe a fasting person gains nothing from his fast except hunger and thirst. And maybe a person who prays in the night gains nothing from their prayer except staying up late. This is because if someone does an action without knowing why they are doing it or what the objective behind it is, then it is possible that the action will be useless. As Imam al-Shatibi, the father of Maqasid, states, actions without objectives are like bodies without souls. Therefore, comes tonight's lecture and its importance in the series of the Maqasid lectures organized by the Center for the Study of the Philosophy of Islamic Law. This lecture tonight will be addressing many dimensions of fasting and how it can transform our understanding of worship and our sense of being. Our keynote speaker tonight is Professor Heba Raouf Ezzat. We are very honored and delighted to have her among us tonight. I'll give you a very short brief about her CV. It's a very long CV, a lot of contributions, a lot of works written by her. Professor Heba Raouf Ezzat is a lecturer of political theory at the Political Science Department at Cairo University and a visiting fellow at the London School of Economics. She wrote her MA thesis on women and politics in Islam and her PhD on the concept of citizenship in contemporary Anglo-American liberal thought. She has also taught as an adjunct professor at the American University in Cairo and as a visiting professor at the University of Maastricht. Her most recent work was co-editing the Oxford Encyclopedia on Islam and Women, and the titles of her two recent books published in Arabic were The Political Imagination of Islamists and Towards a New Civility. Her academic interest is multifaceted and include notions on citizenship, multiple modernities, urban politics, sociology of the cyberspace, violence, hegemony and sovereignty, democracy and dialogue, history of Islamic political concepts, and the political implications of informality. I was asked from a few people what is the connection between her background and the fasting, really. But I just found, today she gifted us a book, a recent book, just published recently about the objectives of fasting in Islam, and another book to come in a few days, actually, coming out of the print. Therefore, I would like to thank, on your behalf, once again, Professor Heba Raouf Ezzat for being with us tonight. Very honored to have you here. And please take the floor and to address this distinguished audience tonight. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. It gives me great honor to address you. I feel a bit embarrassed in standing here on the podium and addressing professors and senior scholars, but let's consider this to be a circle of exchange of opinions and giving each other some energy before Ramadan. What is the relevance between a political theorist and Ramadan? Well, a lot to share. My background is that I am a political theorist and my specialty is history of ideas and concepts. So we draw maps of concepts and we play with ideas and we use a lot of imagination. But at the same time, we also read texts. So this was my approach to understanding the Quran, and I've been conducting different halakas on reading the Quran and also on reading our own heritage, not only in Cairo, but also in Oxford as well. We have a reading group on Ibn Khaldun, and we had one in Cairo that was actually banned Maybe people are not interested in listening to Ibn Khaldun's idea about civility these days in Cairo. So we moved it to Oxford and we are continuing. It's a big world and God gave us a lot of room and space. Why I became interested in Ramadan? I became interested in Ramadan and I wrote a book that was published last year, and the second edition will come out in a few days. Because I see Islam as one unit. You cannot understand the whole idea of Islam and Deen unless actually you see it in its own totality, and you see it three-dimensional. So it's very important to know the little tiny details. It's very important to know fiqh very well, as you said, how to fast, what to do, not to, what to do, what would break your fast, what is not permissible, etc. But don't lose the spirit of it. It's like walking in a very beautiful place and focusing very much on your footsteps and losing the sense of beauty. And I fully disagree when we talk about Islamic Maqasid and Sharia and we talk about law. Because actually it's the law of nature that we are aspiring to understand. And the legal dimensions of Islam are just one bit and piece of it. And unless you understand what you mentioned of spirit that is penetrating each and every dimension of Islam, you will miss a lot. You will turn religion into a legal frame where you are negotiating and bargaining about rights and duties, but you actually lose the essence of it, and you're not lifted and your spirit is not enlightened. And my interest in Ramadan is basically part of my interest in the 5 pillars of Islam, and to understand, starting from al-Shahada and then the prayers and then Ramadan and Zakat and Hajj, and to see how they are very much interwoven into each other. And everything that is ordained by God and mentioned in the Quran is actually it's like a fingerprint. It's like a genetic map. You'll find all the components and dimension in each and every action, and the different faces of Islam in each and every deed, in a way. And we need to map our different concepts, and we need to revisit our understanding of Sharia. So, of course, when we mention the Maqasid of Sharia, we mention حفظ الدين والنفس والعقل والنسل والمال, but we don't mention beauty and how actually different pillars of Islam and different rituals of Islam should lead us to light. And this is not a Sufi talk. This is a talk about Sharia, and it's a talk about Maqasid, and it's a talk about Ahkam. So we're not playing the game of look for the spiritual and omit and neglect the legal or the fiqhi, or no, this is not the game we play, but we want to have it all in one unit and in one unity. I was reflecting on Ramadan, and if you focus a bit with my talk, let's play the exercise, let's do the exercise of reading the Quran and then spotting the different concepts that are related to the notion of Ramadan in the text itself, in the Quran. And then we'll realize that we are in front of a conceptual map. This is what I do all the time. And I think that you will enjoy also reading the Quran in Ramadan, this Ramadan, inshallah. If you have next to you a pen and some a notebook, and you register, whenever you see a verse where different concepts are mentioned, try to track the family of the concept. Try to track how the concept was used in different parts of the Quran. And then in front of you, the pieces of the puzzle will come together, and eventually you will see a picture, but you'll also see it three-dimensional, and you'll see the spirit of it and the meaning of it. And this unfolding horizons of significance of each and every dimension and each and every notion that you read in the Quran. And it will be a different experience than just going through the book in order to finish it by the end of Ramadan, which we always try to do. So, Hifz al-Din, the beginning of the Maqasid, is to preserve religion, to keep people remembering the essence of Deen. In Prophet Muhammad's hadith, he says that God subhanahu wa ta'ala says that fasting in Ramadan is for me, and I'm the only one who would reward for it. Because nobody actually would know what is inside you. It's not only that you don't eat and drink, but it's also about refraining from doing things that God does not like. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the introduction, many people may be fasting, but they will not gain from their fast except that they are deprived of eating and drinking. And many people might be staying late night praying, but they will not be gaining from it except being exhausted. And there is also very important hadith that says, من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Those who do not leave making a false testimony and work doing deeds accordingly, his fast will not be accepted, and God does not need him to leave his eating and drinking. So here comes the Shahada at the very beginning. You know, it's very much related to the Shahada because this is مدار الدين. مدار الدين هو الشهادة. الشهادة على العالمين. The essence of religion is basically to make the Shahada to be the witnesses for God in this world. And this Shahada is very important. If you refrain from doing something and this Shahada is missed, fasting is a Shahada. Fasting is part of your Shahada to convey a specific message to the world, but also to continue the lineage with the different religions. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. God ordered you to fast as much as he did to other previous nations and in different messages. We are not the only message that ordered fasting. It's basically this lineage. When we talk about al-Nasl are not only the children that we have of how to preserve community and society. Al-Nasl is also nasab al-Iman. Al-Nasl means also not only lineage, but also the relation between different believers across history and in the Muslim community as well. And it's important to remember the verse when in Surah Hud, when Noah said to God when he was seeing his son drowning, God, you promised me that you will save my family, and God and my son is my family. So, and your promise is always fulfilled, and you are the most wise in your judgment. And God told him, يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك إنه عمل غير صالح. He is not one of your family. Family is the family of good deeds. Family is the family of faith. Family is the family of belief. إن من أولادكم وأزواجكم عدوا لكم فاحذروهم. The verse, if I did not mistake. So this importance of حفظ النسل is actually reflected in a completely different way in Ramadan. That it is the bond of the believers. People fast together, and it is an action of the individual that only God can reward, but it's also a communal action, because within the month of Ramadan, God told us that he would actually double the thawab up to 70 times if we do the good deeds. So actually, while you are fasting, you are looking for someone who's fasting in order to offer him food when he breaks his fast. So it'am al-sa'im in Ramadan is rewarded. So you are fasting, but you're preparing the food for someone else who's fasting. So that when you break the fast together. In fiqh, if you can't fast, should give the food to someone. So تطعم صائما أو تطعم فقيرا أو etc. So there is that sense of community, though the ritual itself is very much between the individual and God. And God mentions that it is an act of taqwa. كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So there is that dimension of taqwa in the understanding of the deeds of God, as if you are remembering all the time that God is watching you, that God is مطلع على ما في قلبك. He is the only one who knows that you're fasting, and fasting in that notion, in that sense, is actually remembrance of God, that you are giving yourself another opportunity, because you can do that all the time outside the month of Ramadan. Why God gives us an opportunity week after week in Jum'ah and month after month in Ramadan, year after year, etc., so that we can have that as-salatu ila as-salah wal jum'atu ila al-jum'ah wa ramadanu ila Ramadan. These intervals actually give us the opportunity to maintain taqwa. But the stops on the way also give us the ability to remember what it's about, so that we don't get into the routine and then we forget. So حفظ الدين is very important. This is part and parcel of every ritual. حفظ النفس in that sense, and nafs in terms of the self with a capital S. Some people translate it into spirit, some people say it's the soul, but I would call it the self, because the notion of the self is very complex. It's a notion that has philosophical dimensions, it's a notion that has spiritual dimensions, it's a notion that has religious dimensions, and nafs is a very important notion. حفظ العقل. And here we wonder, we say, okay, Ramadan is a month of fasting and a month of prayer. So it is a month of حفظ الدين. And it is actually should be a month of focusing more on the spiritual rather than on the intellectual. So what is the relation between Ramadan and the maqsid of حفظ العقل? It's basically how to focus very much on the spiritual dimension and also how to understand the Quran. Because this is the month of the Quran, and the Quran is light. And here again, you put the concepts together. If this is the month of the Quran was described as Burhan and Furqan and Nur and Ruh in the Quran itself. So here is a month where you actually should celebrate a text that is not only a narration or a text that you read in order to come closer to God in your prayer, but it's also to reflect about it and to renew your understanding of the text during praying. So it's a mixture between the spiritual and the intellectual, and this bond is very much clear all the time, but in Ramadan it becomes clearer. You give much more attention to the Quran in the prayer, but not only to gain thawab, as some people would calculate it, sometimes even on a digital counter, that they count the thawab, etc., but also in terms of understanding the spirit of it. And also hifz al-mal. And here comes the understanding of what is al-mal. Al-mal is basically not only property, but everything that you have. And how can you preserve it? How can you keep it? How can you protect it? It's protecting. In Islam, many of the dimensions of protecting your own wealth is by spending it, not by keeping it and investing it. And that's why Aisha, when she gave away something that came as a present to her, and then her maid told her, we don't have anything left. I mean, you gave away everything. And she said to her, you didn't remind me. If you have reminded me, I would have kept a percentage. And then she said, okay, now we lost it all. And she said, no, we actually kept it all. The understanding of what is kept, what is the meaning of mal in Ramadan. Ramadan reminds us that what you actually keep is what you spend. It's not what you put in your pocket. And I was posting to a group of students today. We have a small group that came out of the Ibn Khaldun dars. So we talk about the Quran and our understanding. And I was telling them, when you go out of your home, before going out, me as a mother, I keep telling my children, remember, did you get any money in your pocket? Remember your keys. Don't forget your keys so that you keep ringing the bell and giving me headache when you come back. Do you have your ID? Because now you have to carry your ID in Cairo streets. You can be stopped anytime by anybody. Remember to take your mobile, because I can't reach you if you forget your mobile. And remember to charge it, because if they don't answer my phone and they say the battery was dead. They don't want to answer me, so they just put it on mute or whatever. So, but we don't remember to take many things when we are going out. And we depend heavily that as long as my child, or as long as I myself have my mobile, my keys, my money, my passport or my ID, I'm fine. I can face anything. I have everything with me in my bag or in my pocket. But this actually makes us less dependent on that I also have God. If I lose my money, if I lose my keys, if I lose my mobile, if I'm disconnected, from the world, I still have God and I have to depend on God. And this reconnecting with God is actually part and parcel of what I have. What is my capital in terms of my relation to God? This is something that actually Ramadan reminds us of. And the fact that it's beyond the zakat that you actually pay sadaqat, and you actually feed the hungry, and you actually share the food, and you give out of yourself by joining the jama'ah, by joining the ummah in doing a ritual and standing next to each other. So the collective dimension of Ramadan, as much as it's also an individual practice, and it's between the individual and his God, it's also a very social practice. And you only need to travel during Ramadan to realize how in different communities in the Muslim world, we actually celebrate Ramadan differently. Some of our fellow brothers and sisters come to Cairo because Egyptians celebrate anything in their own way. So some Hijazi brothers and sisters come to spend the time of Ramadan in Egypt. Some come from. I personally go to Turkey and Morocco. I leave the Egyptian tradition, and I go to another tradition. And it's interesting how the Ummah has got so much culture and differences in approaching things that we have to learn from. The diversity of celebrating Ramadan. Ramadan is not only this theoretical understanding of deen, but it's also how we practice our deen. This is very important. And one of the Maqasid of Sharia is actually to celebrate this diversity very much. In Istanbul, I prayed, they make the Qiyam prayer, the Taraweeh, 20 rak'ahs. In Egypt, usually it's 8 rak'ahs, according to the different parts of each chapter of the Quran. In Istanbul, they split it into 20, and they usually use small verses of the Quran. So you feel like it's just, you're rushing one rak'ah after the other, and then you finish. But the sincerity that is, and the serenity that is in the mosques in Istanbul is amazing, and the respect of this place. In Egypt, you feel like you are in a park, in a picnic, children running and people bringing food and the Egyptian type of celebrating life and celebrating religion and celebrating everything in the same moment. But it's interesting, it's fun, especially if you go to something like a Sultan Hassan Mosque, which is a big mosque, historical, etc. It's nice. And then if you go to Morocco, you'll find the different even way of narrating the Quran. Tilawa, the sound of the tilawa of the Quran is different from one nation to the other, the music of it, the way they recite the Quran. So I think also this is part of our culture, and this is part of our capital. And here, redefining the notions of حفظ النفس وحفظ العقل وحفظ الدين وحفظ النسل وحفظ المال becomes multifaceted, and you start to realize it in different dimensions and in different meanings, not the very literal lexicon, dictionary type definition of it. Usually when we analyze in political science any phenomena, we put it in different dimensions, and the dimensions we use usually is the transcendental, and then if we use the religious language, it would be al-Ghayb or Allah. So this is a dimension according to which we analyze many things. In ideologies, for example, in Marxism, there is no God, but the question is answered. So you can't say, I will not discuss the issue of divinity. No, they say there is no God. And then they start putting forward the arguments that there is no God and this is a material world. It was created by coincidence or whatever they say. So there is a dimension of the transcendental or the metaphysical. This is all nonsense and it's just superstition. So there is an issue that is discussed. And then we discuss the mizan, we discuss the frame of reference. It's a law, it's law and morality, and we have all the different theories of philosophy of law, the ethical dimension of law, tradition, if it is the law of a specific community, instead of the law as a canonical concept, etc. And then we move to the book. Do you have a constitution? In our case, the book of the Revelation, and how it guides the human action into a specific way. And then we have the notion of the human, so the definition of human nature based in different religions and in different ideologies and doctrines. And then we take the dimension of time, and then we take the dimension of space. The same can be applied also to every single ritual in Islam. If we take it, you have the dimension of the divinity, your relation to God in understanding Ramadan and in understanding usually all rituals in Islam and Deen itself, that we owe God to worship Him, and that we actually are fulfilling an oath. Remember, when you are approaching Ramadan, that your life on this earth is actually fulfillment of the original oath. When God took from the back of Adam all his sons and his descendants, and He put them in a way that we don't know, a manner that we're not aware of, in front of Him, and He said to them, I am your God, and they said, we bear witness. So we come to the world and we are reminded by the different messages and by the different revelations and books that we gave the oath and we should fulfill it. And this is part and parcel of the Shahada. And this is part and parcel of fasting as well, and each and every ritual in the Quran and in the Sunnah that Prophet Muhammad guided us to. Allah, al-Ghayb. Al-Ghayb is mentioned when we know in Ramadan that in that month, it's not only that we prepare, we start getting all the ingredients of the traditional food of Ramadan in different cultures and different houses, but also there is a big preparation that is taking place in Ghayb, in the area and realm of the transcendental. When Ramadan comes, the gates of heaven are opened and the gates of hell are closed. So there is a big fuss up there celebrating Ramadan and preparing for Ramadan. We're not living alone in this universe. God also in the transcendental is making Ramadan a celebration. And the jinn are kept in their chains. So if you do anything wrong in Ramadan, you can't say, I mean, this was Iblis or this was, the jinn that I was tempted. It's yourself. It's a matter of the self. This is the month of the self where actually you should take a stance about what you're doing in your life and how you're dealing in your life with different actions. So there is the dimension of Ghayb. There is the dimension of مَنْ لَمْ يَدَعْ قَوْلَ الزُّورِ وَالْعَمَلِ بِهِ, the dimension of being a witness. There is the dimension of understanding that this book that we have in our hands came down in Ramadan, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, and this Quran is nur and ruh. So if you want to get out of the months with something, it is your understanding of the letter, the spirit, and the light. And these three dimensions are very important. So it's not only about finishing the Quran, the 30 chapters in the 30 days. It's about coming out of that month with more light and more spirit in your life. And this is very important. The dimension of al-mizan in the book, that we actually make the different measures in Ramadan, and God also changes the balance for our good, for our benefit. So he says, if you do something that is not that you are not obliged to do, al-nawafil, then you would be rewarded as if it's a farida. And if you do a farida, something that you should do in Islam, then you are rewarded up to 70 times, and God can actually give you more rewards. So the mizan, actually, the balance is for the favor of you. It's not kept, but not kept for the favor of those who repent, for those who come back, for those who want to actually do good deeds. And then al-insan. What happens when you fast? When we were little children, my mother used to say, we're fasting in order for us to remember that some people don't have food on their table, and you should thank God for what you have. Okay, then why are the poor fasting? To see what the rich are doing in Ramadan for their sake, for example, a nice idea as well. But it's also very true, because if we understand that we can be in the situation of losing everything at a specific point, then fasting is actually a training. This water, Sharaf mentioned, he said this, whatever water, the example that he gave, it's actually amazing that in Ramadan, the source of life is taken away from you during the hours of Ramadan. And we complain about the long hours of fasting, especially when we are living in Europe. But it's interesting that the water is not there, but the light is there. So you should remember that you are made of light, you are made of water, you are made of clay. And you should take the intake of food in order for you to survive. But you also stop taking it to remember that this is a blessing, whether it's there or whether it's not there. There is a great relation between water and the self and the universe and Jannah. And if you do the exercise during this Ramadan, you say, for example, today I will read my chapter, but I will also have next to me the lexicon, al-Mu'jam al-Mufarras li-Alfaz al-Quran. It's very important to have actually, I advise highly that each and every one of you has this Mu'jam al-Mufarras. You can have it now on your iPhone even. You can just search through the Quran on your iPhone. So you say, okay, I finished my chapter today, and then I will take whatever notion. I will take al-Adl. And then you follow all the verses of al-Adl in the Quran, and then you start seeing the relation between al-Adl. You'll find out that al-Adl, for example, is a system of justice. Al-Adl is a system of morality. ذوي عدل. Okay, so it's a trait. It's something related to the integrity of individuals. And al-Adl as mizan, and al-Adl in this world, and al-Adl on the Day of Judgment. So there is that understanding of the different notions. It's very important for you to do this exercise in Ramadan, because you can come out of the month not only reading the full Quran, but also understanding the main concepts of the Quran through reading them as a concept, not only in each and every chapter. The body is a very important part of ourself, of our understanding. And there is a sociology of the body. I mean, it can be a full course on the sociology of the body and how we understand our relation to our own bodies. In Ramadan, our relation to our bodies changes, because an essential component of that relation is actually eating and healthy diet and exercising and doing so many things. And you have to remember all the time that fasting actually makes a distance between you and your body. You don't wake up in the morning and take your coffee as usual. You just don't do that. So it breaks the habits of the body to a great extent. And it opens the habits of the spirit and the eyes of the heart. So this is a very important dimension. The dimension not only of healthy fasting, and fasting is very healthy for the health. But it's also that there is that unfolding of the existence, that you put yourself that is in one entity into different dimensions in Ramadan, and you look at it carefully. So you build a new relation with your body when you stop eating and drinking, and then hopefully not rush into eating and drinking when you break your fast, but actually take it smoothly and slowly. So the best tradition I saw is the Moroccan one. People take the soup and then they pray and then they delay the main course, for example. So it's like it's taming the body. There is a dimension of also refraining from desire, from sexual relation. And this is very interesting because Hifz al-Nasl is one of the Maqasid in Sharia, but at the same time you refrain from the act of sexual intercourse during the time of fasting, because you have to remember that also you should tame your own desires. So you manage a new relation with your bodies in a way that only God actually can judge. And this is very important. There is a dimension of language, what you say in Ramadan, what you say to others, how you actually take your anger and swallow it because you are fasting, and this is very important. The dimension of the human self can sometimes be divided into 5 dimensions: the bodily, the spiritual, al-abdan, wal-irfan, wal-wigdan, the emotional, and al-lisan, the language and how we deal with issues of language, and al-aql, the intellect. So during Ramadan, sometimes you feel a bit tired by the end of the day. You can't concentrate very much, and you realize that you should then appreciate the energy that comes out of food that gives you the ability to reflect in a better way. But you don't lose the spiritual and the light. And it depends very much on how you change the routine. So the individual dimensions are very important. The 5th dimension that we talk about when we analyze any concept or any performance in social life is also time. And this is a big story when it comes to Ramadan. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So you are related in Ramadan with the Quran that actually transcends time. This is the word of God. And it's very important to realize that when you hold the Mus'haf, when you hold the book in your hand, you are holding the book that carries the message of God that is eternal. So the dimension of eternity comes into your life. The 2nd dimension, when God says on the Laylatul Qadr that Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. Alfi shahr is about 80 years. So it means that it is better as one night if you focus on your spirituality and your relation to God and your prayer than a lifetime. The same also you find in the Quran when God mentions that تعرج إليه الملائكة في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة, that in the upper world the angels take thousands and thousands of years to reach one level of the heavens, shift from one level to another level. So the notion of time in Ramadan changes through breaking the routine, but also through realizing that the culmination of the prayer and fasting, etc., in the Laylatul Qadr is also a new notion of understanding of time. That this is a night that you aspire to be forgiven in, where actually it is a night that is worth a lifetime of prayer and sincerity to God. So this also, in relation to your body and understanding of the body, changes your notion of time. Time is very relative in the life and the realm of the life of the Muslim generally. So this is also something that we should look into in Ramadan. And also the time of prayer and the time of the community and the time of solitude and reflecting on your own in reading the Quran, and the time of taking a nap, and the time of being awake in order to focus in prayer, and the time to be with others but the time to be alone and sit with yourself, and the time of i'tikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan, where you actually stop completely the routine of every day, not shifted because of Ramadan hours in workplaces, etc., but it's preferable even to stop it completely. We don't have the notion of going to a monastery or devoting our life to worship and prayer that we find in Catholicism, for example. But the last 10 days of Ramadan are almost like complete devotion to the notion of worship. And it's not doing it and isolating yourself from the world, but it's actually sitting in the house of God and focusing with your fellow Muslims in reading and praying, and the prayer is usually collective. So people pray together and go through that experience that is individual but at the same time very collective in a way that breaks the momentum of time in a completely different way. And then location and space, which we analyze when we study anything that is sociological or in human life. The spaces of Ramadan are very important to see. We go to mosques more frequently in Ramadan. I'tikaf takes place in mosques if this is possible. So you actually change your location, and you change the location of the spirit, and you change the location of the body. So it's important also to remember that the spaces of ibadah, the spaces of coming together with Muslims to pray and to read Quran, the spaces of your daily existence change a lot in Ramadan. If you take Ramadan as only refraining from eating and drinking a few hours in the day, you will not reach these different multifaceted meanings of Ramadan. What happens when Ramadan finishes? Actually, fasting does not stop. According to the Sunnah, we have the 6 days in Shawwal to continue our smooth shift back to our ordinary life. This is also what we advise people when we talk about salat, when we talk about prayers. People go into prayer and then jump out of prayer, and that's it. And then they complain, we don't concentrate in our prayers, because you didn't prepare yourself into entering the realm of praying and standing between the hands of God, and then leaving in a respectful way. You just turn your back and leave. So al-wudu is actually part of prayer. So when you prepare yourself by wudu, you actually get yourself a couple of minutes. You wash everything about the world. Not only you wash your body, but it's a preparation with watering your soul first. Okay? And then you enter into the prayer, and then you finish by the tasbih and the different dua that you do. And then, as if you are making an excuse to say, may I leave and go to the day-to-day life. So it's a smooth shift. The same in Ramadan. God did not want us to just leave Ramadan and jump back to our life and change the routine and say, alhamdulillah, Ramadan is over and now we can go back to our routine life. No, you have 6 days in Shawwal to make the transition peaceful and to make the transition wise. And I think that this is very important. Looking also in the notion of Eid, that people in Islam celebrate their deen. The two main celebrations that we have are Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. And this is very much related to the understanding of what we should be celebrating in life. We are not only celebrating our material success, we are not celebrating our marriages, we are not celebrating the birth of our children, all related to Maqasid, because you're celebrating your procreation and you're celebrating establishing families, hifz al-nasl, you're celebrating success in achieving capital, hifz al-mal, when people get a degree or when they invest and get profit and want to celebrate this, but also they celebrate hifz al-aql, and they celebrate hifz al-nafs, and they celebrate hifz al-deen that they actually strive to achieve during the month of Ramadan. The problem with our different rituals in religion, generally, not only in Islam, in human life, is that we shift from meaning to icons. What does that mean? Iconization is turning a specific person or a specific incident or a specific act into an icon and turning it into a very beautiful picture, but without life. And assuming that this picture in itself has power, which is not true. And here, the notion of power is very interesting, because in the Quran, when God mentions Ramadan, He says, "Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr." When I went back to the English translation, it says the night of power. And al-qadr has nothing to do with power as we know it. And this is the problem of translation. Al-qadr comes from al-qudra. Al-qadr comes from the mizan as well, from qaddarahu taqdira. Al-qadr comes from different roots of that word in the Arabic language. So you also need to know what is empowerment through the different rituals that you have. And also, what empowerment does Eid give to us not turning it into an icon where actually we go to different family homes and we give presents to the children, and then we wear something new and we get ourselves something to eat and people exchange visits, and then turn that Eid into an icon, that as if we are doing something, but the meaning was actually lost. In Islam, coming to the prayer, interestingly enough, is compulsory, preferably, and not compulsory in terms of its Salat al-Eid. People should go out, and even Prophet Muhammad said the women who do not pray during that period of time, during the months, should also attend the Eid prayer, because it's the celebration of the community's sense of meaning of being a Muslim, and that they tried as much as they can to preserve the deen. And this is a very political statement as well. So the very spiritual comes along with the very individual, comes along with the very transcendental, comes along with the notion of time, with the relation to space, with the relation to the body, in order to create a ritual that is very essential to our understanding. I mentioned Shahada, and that fasting is also very much related to being a witness to God and remembering God all the time. But also during the time of fasting, prayer is very central to the practice of Ramadan. But also fasting is very important for every prayer. You cannot eat during your prayer. So actually the time of prayer itself is a short period of fasting 5 times a day to remind you of Ramadan. I mean, what would it have been a problem? Why not carry a bottle of water in times of summer, so that during the Allahu Akbar I can just take I can drink a bit of water? What would be wrong? No, God wants you to remember that this is a full time of focus on worship, and you are not supposed to eat, or it makes ibtal, it tubtil salah. Can't eat. Ramadan is present actually in the notion of fasting, in prayer. It's very much present in some of the rituals of Hajj. In times of Ramadan, there is a focus on prayer that is reminding us of Al-Kaaba all the time, of the Qibla that we are directing our faces to, but not only the face, but the heart. So, Qiblat al-wujuh wa Qiblat al-qulub. This is very important to remember, that this interwoven dimension of different rituals is very much striking in Islam, and definitely zakat. So you have zakat al-fitr, and you also have the zakat of nafs in every and each moment of Ramadan, and hopefully each and every moment of your own life. This whole revisiting of the meanings of a ritual in Islam is actually a gate to a lot of reflection about our own existence and about our situation as a Muslim community. You must have had during your own life different memories of Ramadan. When you were young, we used to do some things that are not present anymore. We used to come together because we were living in the same city. Now we live in a global age. It's very hard to find everybody on the same table in Ramadan breaking their fast, because you have a son traveling here. You yourself you are in a different country if you are traveling or immigrating or studying. And you have these layers of memories of your first day that you fasted. Last week when we had the Ibn Khaldun circle in Oxford, we had 3 convert Muslims, one from a French background, and one from a British background, and one from a Polish background. They were attending the Ibn Khaldun dars. And we talked about Ramadan in order to prepare our souls and also our minds to Ramadan. And the 3 of them actually, amongst the group that was there, talked about the experience of the first Ramadan in their life. 2 women and a man were talking about how it was very hard to fast for the first time, but also how the experience was very rewarding for them, especially for the British gentleman who was not a practicing person in any religion before. He did not practice any rituals before. And he said actually that he converted in Ramadan. So it was for him a very interesting, and it was the French woman who converted in Ramadan. And she said, I only fasted for the half of the month because I came into Islam, and I will always remember each and every Ramadan that it was the gate for me to enter into Islam. It's a different experience. So maybe if we enter into the realm of our understanding of Islam each and every Ramadan, as we do each and every time we pray, if possible, as we remind ourselves every time we pay zakat and put our hands like that, not like that. So your hand should be the lower hand, because the person taking the money from you is actually you're putting it in the hands of God. So min al-adab, that you put your hand is the lower hand, not the upper hand when you give zakat. If you remember that when you perform Hajj, you will remember where you came from, and then you will remember where you are heading to. So Ramadan is a moment of reflection. Hajj is a moment of reflection. Maybe before the time of Hajj we can meet again, and we can talk about the different symbols, and the degree of symbolism in Hajj is amazing. That it relates you to the movement of the universe and the different planets. It relates you to the understanding of this nasab, this relation between the different believers, because you're performing many things that were performed by Abraham and Ishmael. So, كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم, we always in our rituals remember the different stages of Islam, starting from the time of Adam. And we are reminded that we are part of that course of history, and we are preserving and we are holding this amana by the end of time, because this is the end message to humanity. So it's such a huge amana that we are carrying, and it needs a lot of energy and power, but also a lot of spiritual integrity. These were reflections on Ramadan, not very much political, but many of them came because the political training of analyzing concepts and reading texts and seeing what is beyond the letter taught me how to read the Quran and then how to reflect about Ramadan. That's why I became interested in introducing this to you, and it also is a personal experience at the end of the day. I did not hope to make this an intellectual journey as much I wished it would be a spiritual togetherness. So I hope that if instead of asking questions, you would share a reflection or a memory or something related to your late fathers and mothers, if they left this world, that they used to do during Ramadan, that they taught you, I think it would be much more enriching than asking me a question, and it would save me the mission of answering you and showing my ignorance. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you on your behalf, Professor Heba, for this spiritual reflections on Ramadan, this human and metaphysical dimensions of fasting. Thanks a lot for this enlightening lecture, Professor. If you kindly bear with us a few more minutes, I'll open the discussion now, whether questions or, as she rightly mentioned, some reflections that can be shared in such a gathering tonight. So the floor is yours now.
I will follow your advice and not ask you a question. In fact, there is no question after your words of wisdom. So only I want to say thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge and enlightening us. And I will certainly remember your words. I will remember your words as we enter this Ramadan. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Abdul Hamid. Thank you for this enlightening talk. One of the things which came to my mind is really Ramadan for some societies is a form of identity, it's a resistance. And for us, particularly for the North Africans, for instance, and we've experienced a long period of colonialism, and the result of it was that people were denied education and fell into a situation, and they really retrenched into their identity, and they saw Ramadan particularly as a form of resistance. And 40 or 50 years ago, for instance, in Algeria, you wouldn't see somebody breaking Ramadan, because Ramadan was part of the identity of people. And if someone broke Ramadan, that means he's gone outside the community. And even people who did not pray, people who did not go to Hajj, because they didn't have much knowledge really about Islam. But for them, Ramadan was something really sacred, more than sacred. It's part of themselves. They defined themselves by how they observe Ramadan. And Ramadan kept really their identity and kept the society. And really it's a form of resistance. It's still there in the background now. If you go to North Africa, for instance, during Ramadan, it's special, all the shops close and all. You wouldn't see people selling food or drinks during Ramadan because of this legacy. So Ramadan is really
a statement.
A statement of who you are. And I think as probably a political social scientist, you may have come across instances where people can sort of draw strength from parts of their faith, and that sort of allowed them to preserve their identity.
Actually, what you said brought a reflection to my mind. It's about how also we are facing a lot of challenge everywhere, not even in the heart of Islam, not only as minorities in the West, of preserving the meaning of different rituals of Islam, while the whole system is actually not Islamic. It's also based altogether on secularism. So there is a dimension of alienation here, and there is a dimension of resistance as well, because you should negotiate sometimes going to prayers on Friday, and you should negotiate at your job sometimes that you come a bit late. And I have a friend who said that she negotiated at her workplace that she would come back a bit, that she would go to work a bit late because she will be spending time in the mosque praying, and actually they accepted. So she said, I will come at 12 and leave late at 8 because I can stay after 5 because I'm fasting anyway. So they accepted at her workplace, but not every workplace accepts that. So it's also this challenge that you actually keep two rhythms. There are two timings in Ramadan in a modern city. That's why I'm very much interested in urban politics and urban sociology, because actually the city transforms everything according to its own time and its own capitalist routine. So you feel very much impoverished by that, and you want to break the routine, and it's hard. So I think it's the internal and spiritual journey in Ramadan is a jihad. So to bring all the things together in a network in your mind, it is a serious jihad, and that's why people should actually make sure that they would preserve it, and they should observe very well the different dimensions of the religious practice, not only in Ramadan but prayers as well, etc., and not feel entrenched somehow or encapsulated in their own bubble and not having the courage to come out of it and take space and room and change routine. I think it's just a reflection, about what you said. We are actually colonized in our day-to-day. Its colonization is not only a period of time. It's about capitalism, and capitalism spread in order to get the wealth of other nations in a historical period, but it's now also, in a way, taking the spaces and the times and colonizing our day-to-day life details. So liberation is also part and parcel of practicing religion, and the part and parcel of Ramadan, not only in the West but also in our own countries where modernity is on the rise.
Thank you very much for this enlightening and informative talk. My question or reflection is, if Ramadan indeed is a way to liberate the spirit of the Ummah and uplift its conscience to face the challenges of life and to perform as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be the witness on other nations. In the light of that, what we see in modern Muslim countries, which you touched now on, that there is a really a kind of split in the personality or schizophrenia. Is all its great values is misinterpreted and distorted in a very bad way. I mean, for decades, you'll find that there are institutions which devote their time to plan beforehand or before Ramadan comes how to deprive it from its meaning and make it a mock. Millions of pounds are poured to produce the so-called TV soap show in a astronomical figure, and instead of having the night for Qiyam Layl, people are spending the night in front of the TV, switching from one channel to another, and all the themes are displayed do nothing but to degrade and to humiliate the Muslims and bring them to the lower levels in every way, and to propagate values which is against Islamic teachings and Islamic values. And this is happening year in and year out, and going in a very increasing way. The amount of food consumed in Ramadan, it doesn't tell about the fasting nation. It tells about people who are really just so many all this and this going in line with the attack on various tenets and the rituals of Islam, whether it is the prayers or the Hajj and so on. And I can see that there is a battle going on, whether we like it or not. I'm not talking about conspiracies, but I'm talking about reality, that the Muslims has now to do something, to go back and to read, as you said, the text, to see the objectives, to intensify the effort. The efforts needed to be multiplied from the moment and every minute in order to face this great challenge. Otherwise, the new generations, definitely they are facing a different Islam, and they will be probably the Muslims of a different nature, not the nature which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be.
My comment is that during Ramadan, we don't have a TV at home. So it's there is no negotiation. Sometimes I negotiate and sometimes I don't. So it's not in its place in the first place. I mean, there is no way that anybody can sneak and open it if I'm sleeping. So it's a decision taken. And I think that حفظ النسل, as we mentioned, preserving the lineage or the procreation, or in the common sense or in the wider and deep sense, it's how can we كيف نحفظ نسل المسلمين من خلال الشعائر? How can we guard them? How can we save them? Actually, not by just giving them life, but also giving them the spiritual life. And I think that we should change our own rituals in Ramadan. Yani I have the benefit that I'm a professor, so especially when Ramadan is in the summer, I don't have work, so I have the luxury of enjoying my own Ramadan according to my own rules. As a person, dividing the day and doing whatever I want. I can wake up till late praying, and then can wake up in the morning late. I don't have working hours, but and even during the time of Ramadan, I have my lectures, and then I go back home, so I don't work from 8 to 5, for example. But I think that we should do something about negotiating Ramadan. And part of the new colonial culture, postmodern, whatever we can call it, is this notion of leisure time. So you can take 30 days of your year off, and then you start thinking about should we go back home if we are living here. So you go to Algeria, go to Egypt, back to Morocco, back to Hijaz, whatever. Or reflecting seriously about encouraging people and establishing a movement that actually we take our 30 days during Ramadan and change that notion of leisure time. يعني ما كانش الرسول بيصيف يعني Prophet Muhammad did not go to the Riviera مثلا أو to Alexandria, to marinas during the time that he wanted to relax. He actually went to the mountains and he sat and prayed. يعني the notion of that your leisure time is your prayer time is something that we have to restore. This is my leisure time. This is هذا وقت راحة النفس يعني. And I actually, as a person, I don't enjoy going places. And when I go places, I go to visit people. يعني I don't go and sightseeing. Rarely I do so. But I go to people. I go to attend celebrations. I attend rituals in different countries. And this is what I carry around of memories. يعني how people lived in this in this society and perceived the world differently in day-to-day details. So I think that along the lines of what you mentioned, Dr. Shayal, is the notion of how we resist. And also the brother who talked at the beginning from Algeria. It's how the resistance should also become a strategy. That if we can encourage people that if they can make it and take the days of Ramadan as their 30 days off in work, then they should do so in order for us to enjoy Ramadan. I see no point in that very rationalistic, modernist, secular call for during Ramadan we even produce more. No, and this is a time for spirituality to produce more, but on the spiritual level. So there is no way, there is no need to do the challenge of Bourqiba actually in Tunisia. It had no point. It was an interesting idea, but it had no point because you're not supposed to prove anything that you're more capitalist than capitalism itself. So we have to reflect. If people can make it, then they should try to make this room for their own self and soul. And if people say, but Islam is about productivity, Islam is about light. Islam is about passion. Islam is about compassion. It's about restoring your humanity. And this is the most important contribution that we can actually offer the world.
I'm a medical doctor, and I'm also a specialist in Chinese herbs and acupuncture. Sure. I treat with bioenergy. I'm a hypnotherapist as well.
I need your card.
Now, I just need to mention something that I sense some sense of retroactive energy. It should be a proactive energy. Our parents in Algeria, they fought the French, but they gave us the spirit of proactive. My father, you said La Jacente, I used to run and race with my father in Algeria, and he gave us that spirit of celebration. So as a Muslim, I see myself embracing every field. I studied with Hindus, I studied with Buddhists, and I gave with, so I think Muslim should accept that concept of versatility. Nothing is static in life. One day one can be an atheist or don't do a Ramadan, the next day he will do it because he sees that the flexibility of a Muslim, the celebration of life, this is why we are Khalifa, Bani Adam is Khalifa on the earth. Secondly, the Ramadan is important, and in all these healings strategies, the fasting is very important because they consider that we are one digestive system. The whole body is made of a big chunk of a digestive system and a lymphatic system. So by stopping eating, you know how digestion takes a lot of energy.
Put the microphone on you.
A lot of energy energy of the body. So when we fast, the body is concentrating on cleansing the system, and the great intestine, the colon, is the second brain. Like people have a lot of colon cancer, a lot of digestive problems. That's because of all this stress in life and also the hectic eating. So when we fast, the body is concentrating in stopping this energy and being tired of digesting the food and assimilating and absorbing and eliminating and doing this and doing that into cleansing, going everywhere, and we get energized. So if we do salat and we do tasbih and we do istighfar, we do hamd, it's a cycle. The beginning, life is a cycle. So the day is a cycle. Subh, Fajr, we start with Subhanallah, this is the beginning of the cycle. And we say Alhamdulillah, it's a celebration of the cycle. And then it goes down, we say Astaghfirullah. So that cycle repeating itself, it's like a tape in our mind, is accepting that and imagine this wave of salat and tasbih and istighfar, it's like a wave around the earth. It's subh here or fajr in Moscow, and then fajr in another place. It's a wave that's cleansing and picking up all the energy of the other, everything around the world, and passing it on. And then as we absorb, we become, that's why zakat is purifying us, salat. When we give, we become conductive. And that's why we should be proactive, because we are the filter of the world. So this wave of tasbih and hamd, istighfar, this is fantastic. We should be proactive and thinking, look, I'm a Muslim. And I'll tell you more about Allah, because we are part of Allah. We are light, we are hub, we are nur. you know. And so whatever's happening in our countries, our parents wouldn't been there. ستبتلون من قلة المال وقلة الأنفس. Who hasn't been you know, so هذا الابتلاء. Our parents, you know, my father was 6 months away from a death penalty by the French, and he was liberated. The way he was describing when he was in prison for that 6 months, you know, in Sirkaji, in a prison with Abbas al-Madin and all, they tell you how they lived. And he is 84, mashallah. And the way he is sporty, he is always celebrating. People come to him from all the family, and he's there to stand for them, you know, and always positive. And that's the legacy he gave us. I'm a Muslim. I study with Chinese, and I'm a Muslim, you know, I can challenge them in their belief. You know, so this is how, you know, and we have all sorts of ups and downs in Algeria, but we laugh, we have sense of humor, because we know that we are passing through this life, and we have a message, we have a legacy, you know, so we have to be proactive and not retroactive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I remember that when I was discussing with some young people prayer. So one of the reasons I explained to them why they should keep their prayer is actually, again, the notion of light. That during prayer, you actually add to the capital of light in the world. So depriving the world of that capital of light is actually a crime. You know, so it's not only about you, it's about that prayer brings light and brings positive energy to the world. And no matter how small you are, actually you're just adding some positive energy to the world that you described rightly, and focus on that. And also when you sense that feeling, you get connected with the light of the world as well. So you feel very much enlightened in the very literal sense of enlightenment. So it's this understanding, it's this rationale that you see beyond what is seen, that you see al-Ghayb as if al-Ghayb is not only the al-Mala' al-A'la. Al-Ghayb is everything that is in the world that you can't see and sense yourself, but you know that it's existing, and you can see that through the different laws of nature. It's very important. I mean, I think also that Ramadan is very important in i'tikaf in order to relate you to the universe and to the cosmos, this understanding. Even the prayer, it's when you pray and make sujood. The sujood is the sense of being humble to God, but it also relates you very much to the earth, and especially if you make sujood في الخلاء, يعني if you make sujood on sand or on even soil, you know, it's a different feeling when you pray in a garden and you don't use a prayer mat, and when you put your head on forehead on a tin, it's a very strange relation. You feel like as if there is a secret relation between you both, يعني. Yeah, there is a connection somehow. So what you say is very. Don't forget to give me your card, please. And I never heard before that Algerians have humor. The image is that you are very tough and rough and jihadis, and you know, and we used to be proud of you. بلد المليون شهيد, بس إحنا بلد المليون نكتة, فيعني you're going to compete with us like that.
Thank you very much, sister. I just wanted to translate what you have just said into what science is saying. In fact, when you put your head down on earth, you are discharging all these negative energies, and you are uploading negative ions, which are very, which are the negative ions which recharge the batteries of our cells and sort of make us think in much way. That's all I want to say.
Any more reflections?
Thank you, Doctor. I want just to say something. I came from Egypt like yourself, and believe me or not, I come here to London to celebrate Ramadan. I left my wife and my kids over there. You know why? Because I feel Ramadan more here in London, more than Cairo, more than Egypt, more than our Muslim countries. I would like to give us some hints about what we should do in Ramadan in our countries. Instead, our brother Shaib said, you know it, you start after you finish your feed, start first Tamsiliyah until Fajr, prayer. What we can do nowadays, let us know as a science, what should the country, the government, the people themselves do to bring old Ramadan back to our life. I'm 69. I felt Ramadan during my childhood, and I know what Ramadan looks like in the past. Please let us know. Give us some hints. Not for me, for our government over there. Thank you.
And I can't talk to our government at the moment. But I think it's about the day-to-day details of يعني تفاصيل الحياة الصغيرة. I think it's very important. For example, I don't make any extra food. يعني my budget does not change. On the contrary, يعني I don't add any food on the table during Ramadan. And when I invite any family member, it's the same food that we eat. We don't make anything extra. And sometimes I encourage my children actually to save some of the food left and give it. So whoever is going to prayer first takes the leftovers of the food and gives it to any person on the road who seems to be humble and poor. So it's there is nothing that you can do as a policy, but you can actually change how people think. And I don't care if my family members think that I'm stingy and I'm not giving them at the big table that they expect during iftar in Ramadan, but this is what we have. And it's also yani, the relation between fasting and Prophet Muhammad is part that I didn't have time to talk about. Yani, the Prophet Muhammad is not present in our life. The way that he acted in Ramadan, the way that he acted in his life generally, the notion of hunger is very important. The notion that you feel what hunger means. Even during Ramadan, we don't have that feeling, by the way. But Prophet Muhammad, when he was kept in Sha'b, when he was sort of kept away with the Muslims and isolated from the community and denied of their basic rights as citizens in their own tribe, they knew what hunger meant, and he used to put a stone on his stomach and tied it. So it's the presence of Prophet Muhammad and being part of your day-to-day life and how he acted, especially in Ramadan, I think is very important as well. And the only thing that we can do is actually live up to the notions that we believe and that we ask people to apply. If we don't live up to them, nothing will change. If you teach that to your children and your family members, and you say, "Come and join us," and if you encourage your own milieu, the young people, to come along with you and to make things look nice. I mean, don't take them to small mosques, take them to big mosques, so that they enjoy the qiyam in Ramadan. And if they don't like the speaker, go and take them to another mosque where the speaker actually has a nicer voice, the al-qari yani. So it's just change the routine and make the home looks different in Ramadan. I think this is the most important thing. But there is no way that you can apply public policy to change the way people act, because the dimension of fasad, for example, there is an economy of fasad. It's not a matter of the people want to ruin your spiritual life in Ramadan. It's about billions and billions. There is a capital, People prepare for that months before Ramadan, and then the whole markets are filled with the commodities, and then they encourage you to buy even more and say, this is for Ramadan, and they give you bonuses on different food, etc. So you just stop it. I'm not part of that. I'm not part of consumerism. I'm not part of capitalism. أنا أنتمي للرسول. I belong to Prophet Muhammad. The way he lived, I will live. And this is the way I understand the world. If we spread that, if we identify our faith with the Quran and the Sunnah, I think a lot of things will change. That narratives are very important. We always want to take theories, but the narratives of people, the experiences are very important. And even if you read the seerah of the Sahaba, each and every one of them has had his own very special experience in life. Yani Salman al-Farisi, Bilal al-Habashi, Suhaib al-Rumi. I mean, all of them had such a different experience in life that actually added to the understanding of deen and even the tribal background. So I think that the narratives that you mentioned are very important. And when I listened to those 3 converts last week, I was very touched. There is something very individual about your religious experience as well. We always focus on deen as if it's something holistic and solid, and it's constructed basically of your own experiences, let alone of the commonality between you and those who share the same faith. But there is a very personal dimension in your relation to God, and a very personal dimension in your memories about how you actually come closer, as you mentioned, doctor, come closer and then go a bit back and then maybe renew your energy again, get lost on the way and then find your way to the back to the track. You know, there is that dimension which is very important as well. So thank you for pointing to that change of time and experience in a Western country as a Muslim.
I'm scared with the mic now, but I'll keep away. Sorry for causing the disruption. By these messages, I think we'll close up this tonight's event. May I ask you kindly to join our hands to thank Professor Heba for sharing these interesting ideas, reflections, and this enlightening lecture tonight. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thank you so much to all of you for being part of this tonight's event. May I close tonight's event with wishing you all a blessed month of Ramadan, your families with health, success, and hope to see you soon in our future activities, inshallah. Ramadan Kareem.